Greetings and welcome. My name is Aaron Craig with Let's Learn This Together. Paths are a great tool inside of GameMaker to create, well, paths, but you can use them for lots of different things, such as patrolling, enemy routes. If you're making a tower defense game, you use paths quite a bit. I use them all the time, and they are also used when it comes to path finding, a fairly advanced concept that allows AI to navigate terrain. And we're going to build all the way up to that in this series, but we're going to start with the most basic and fundamental parts of what is a path, how do you create one, and how do you assign one. So that's what we're going to be doing. We'll be using the 8-directional movement project that I just put out a little bit ago. So if you haven't checked that one out yet, then you can follow the link in the card or find it on my channel. You can download that starter project, which is what I'm going to be using here. And this is what we're going to make in the end. We're going to have an NPC patrolling around this fountain, and we're going to be able to customize that path, and we're going to have that NPC also change sprites as they move so that it looks natural and looks great.
My name is Aaron Craig, and I'm a teacher and game developer at Let's Learn This Together. And my passion is to get you into game development. It is not impossible, and you don't need a math degree. And if you have the desire, then we can make it happen. This book is designed to take total newbies to game developers in just 30 days, and you don't need a lick of programming or game design experience. It's simple and broken down into easy to manage chunks that will keep you entertained and encouraged along the way. Just give me 1 hour a day for the next month to turn your dream into a reality. So head on over to letslearnthistogether.com to order your copy of So You Want to Be a Game Developer today. And I'll see you on the other side.
Now, in this project, or whatever project you're doing, we need an object or a player that's going to actually follow this path. So I am just going to duplicate my player object and call it obj NPC. Now, when we're using a path, we don't need to have an X speed, Y speed, or a move speed, because that's actually all going to be taken care of by the path itself. The path has built-in properties for speed and direction, like the ones that you can use if you're not using your own custom ones, speed and direction. So we're just going to be relying on those and using them as we assign that path to our NPC. Now, I just deleted that from my player, so I'm actually going to put that back in, go to the NPC, and then that's where we're going to delete those things. And we also don't need any of this stuff because we're not going to be moving the NPC with that. The only thing I do want to do to distinguish it is add an image blend for C yellow. And now, if we throw this NPC in the room, it'll be a yellow hue and it'll be very distinct from our player. So there we go. An image blend to quickly change that. Now, let's go into our room. So in the room is where we're going to do most of the work. What we're going to do first, before we start working in the room, is go into the paths folder, which is right here, or you can make one wherever, it doesn't matter at all. Right click, create path, and I prefix mine with PT. We're going to call this Fountain Patrol. Now inside here, there's quite a bit of options, and the cool thing is you can do all of this in code as well, which I'm going to cover in my next tutorial where we create paths dynamically, and I'll show you how to optionalize and control each one of these properties with code. But for now, I'll explain them so that you have a good idea. So the connection kind first is straight lines or a smooth curve. So if I click here, it makes a path. Now I can have a smooth curve or a straight line, and that's going to affect how it interpolates between point A and points after B. So you can see here that it's going to be smooth or straight depending on what you want to put there. Then we also have closed. Now closed means it's going to loop back to the beginning. For a patrol, this makes the most sense and is what we're going to want. So we want to have this closed. And then we have the position that we're on, which you can change. You can move these around, and you can also shift the path. If you want to shift it by a certain amount in one direction or another, you can do that by moving all of them, which I suppose can be helpful. And besides that, it's very similar to a room with, anything else that you've done in here. So there's rooms that you can move around, you can full screen it, zoom in and out, disable and enable the grid, and all that. Now, I'm going to go ahead and delete all of these, but leave this closed, because inside of our room is where we're going to be doing it. If we want to have a fountain patrol, and we're trying to do that inside here, that's going to be kind of hard. But the cool thing is, in the rooms, we can actually add a path layer. And this path layer, we can select the path we want to use. And now, you can see these options are right here too. And then we can also set them inside the room. So now we can select anywhere in this room and actually see the path be created as we do it. So we'll have it start up here, and we can click down here, and we can create a full path just like this. Now, we have all the options here as well. So if we don't want it to be closed, we can unclick it. Precision is how precise it's supposed to be. The more precise it is when you're doing smooth curves, the less of a curve that you're actually going to have on it as they walk. So you see a precision 1, it's actually just a square, but 10, it's pretty much a circle. So on a straight lines, the precision doesn't matter at all, so we're not going to bother with that. Now I also want to add a few more directions in here to test all 8 directions of our sprite moving, because we're going to set the sprite for each direction that he's moving. Now I'm going to say it's not closed and add another point here, because I want him to walk all the way back, but then I'm going to have him go like this down here, and then he's going to come up, and we want that more in the middle. If you take off the grid, then you can place these more wherever you want. With the grid on, it does auto-connect you to the points on it, so it can make it kind of difficult. That's a thing to note right there. Then we'll come over here, and we'll come all the way back. So if you click on a different point on the grid, it can make a point right inside of there, which I don't want to do. But if you click on the last point, then you can hopefully click around here and move it over there. And then we'll put them up here. And then I'm going to say closed one more time, and it goes all the way back to there. I'm going to take the grid off for a second and move it right about there. Okay. So it's a kind of funky patrol path, but that is okay. We've got all the directions we want to test, and that's our first path. And if we go and look back at our path, you can see that it's right here as well. So you can see the X and Y of each one of them here. The speed controls how fast they go. Now, it's a default of 100 for a normal speed, and in here, we don't want to mess with that at all. Instead, we can change how fast the player goes when we assign the path. And to assign a path, we just come into the NPC and we say path start. So the path we want to do is PT Fountain Patrol. The speed is going to be the actual speed that we're assigning, so we're going to say 2. Let's go ahead and open the manual, and we can look at the end actions right here. We have path action stop, path action restart, path action continue, and path action reverse. So it tells you exactly what each one does. I want them to continue, but I'm actually going to have it reverse along the path. So that's what we're going to use. So I'll copy this, and then we'll paste it in there, and it comes in as a constant, as you can see. And if you're not ever sure which one you do, you can just type path underscore. Here's the built-in variables, things that you can check to see where they're at. So the end action that's assigned, the index, orientation, position, previous, scale, and speed, and then the constants are right there. So we want path, action, reverse. And absolute is a little confusing, but essentially it just means, do you want this path to take place exactly where it is inside of the world? So if I say absolute, then no matter where my NPC is at, and where did I put it? There we go. No matter where this NPC is at, he will always start right here if it is absolute. If it's not absolute, then if he's right here when we say path start, then he's going to go like this over here, which might be what you want. Sometimes you just want to start a path and have them walk it no matter where they're at, and other times you want it to be absolute, like this time. I do want it to be absolute. So even though our guy is way over there, if we run this now, he will start that path around the fountain exactly as expected. Now, that's how you do paths. Not too difficult. It's really handy that you can make them inside of GameMaker exactly where you want them in that room. There, he just reversed, as we told him to. But how do we get the sprite actually looking good? Because it looks really, really weird having him just walk like that. So we're going to do a very similar thing that we did for our player. Instead of doing switches, though, we're going to do a long series of if statements because it's just a little more complex when we want to do this, because it's not just one number. We actually want to check for a range of numbers, and I'll talk to you about that as we build it. So let's come in and make a new script, and this script is just going to be called NPC, and the function that I want, I'm just going to call this path animation. And you'll be able to use this even if you're not doing an 8-directional thing. You'll just have to change the values of what you put in here, of what you're looking for. So what I mean by looking for more than just one number is this. When our player, or when our NPC, is along this path and going down, the direction they have here is 270. And we can actually look at this. So instead of running this, well, we'll go ahead and just do show debug message direction. And in NPC, in the step event, we'll call path animation. Now, if we check this out, while he's moving, you can see the direction over here is actually changing. And I can't click on it because it pauses it. But you can see that each time he's going along the path, the direction that he's on changes. So that means we need to have a range of numbers to look for, because at 279.46, well, in our previous 8-directional movement, we were looking for very specific numbers. But now we need to be looking between something like 247 and 292, something natural in that direction, so that when he's going like this, he chooses the one that looks best. Otherwise, it's going to look kind of weird because it's only going to select the ones if it's a straight even number, which a lot of times on paths, it's just not going to be. So let's dive into it, and I'll show you the numbers that I've got for it, and then you can tweak them to fit your project exactly. So for the first one, it's a little bit different. We're going to say if direction is greater than or equal to 337.5, or direction is less than 22.5, we're going to change the sprite index to SPR player right. And to give you a visual indication of what I'm talking about, here's an image of the directions in GameMaker. So 0 is right, 90 is up, 180 is left, 270 is down. So while we are right in this area here, we want them to be looking right. But this area goes from 330-ish to 0. So we need to actually be checking if it's greater than 337, because if it is greater than 360, it automatically goes back to 0. And then if it's under 22.5, because if it is, then it's going to be this area right here. Then next, we're going to look in this area for top right, this area for up, and so on and so forth. You don't want just one number, you want to check a range of numbers. The first one is going to be the only one that's an OR, because we're checking greater than 337 or less than 22.5, and it can't be an AND because a number cannot be greater than 330 and less than 22.5. So these other ones are going to look like this. Else if direction is greater than or equal to 22.5, and direction is less than 67.5. Sprite index equals SPR player up right. So you can see that I'm using greater than or equal to with the last number here. So you need to be doing this. If you don't use the greater than or equal to, or if you can do less than or equal to here, that's okay as well. But if you don't do that, then if it ever hits 22.5, it's going to choose, well, the last one that it was on, because none of these if statements are going to hit it. So make sure you check and encompass every single directional point. Otherwise, you're going to find it just looks weird every now and then, and you won't know why. So I'll just go ahead and type these out, but you can tell that it's going to be pretty much the same thing here. So nothing too fancy. I'm just going up by, is that 40? Yeah, I'm going up by 40 each time here. And then just changing the sprite index. And we just got to do this every single time. And these are the numbers that I've got that I think look best. And make sure you always add that less than, otherwise you're going to get an error. So these are the numbers that I played around with. I thought they looked good. You are free to take this script. It will be available to download. You can tweak it to however you want, and as long as it looks good for you, then that's all that matters. And it's hard to type correctly and talk at the same time. Now I'm messing up some of these because it's giving me some errors. So as we go along, yep, I just forgot an equal sign right there. That'll cause an issue. So this is pretty straightforward. So if you get an error, it probably just means you forgot a symbol, which I tend to do pretty often. Let me check to make sure we haven't missed anything else. All right. And we're almost done here. So we've got down. The last one is going to be direction is greater than or equal to 292.5. And direction is less than 337.5. Okay, that's everything we need in there. And we already activated the script or the function by calling it, so let's check it out. There we go. Our NPC is changing sprites. It looks pretty good. Yeah. Okay, I'm really happy with how that looks. It's exactly what I wanted and exactly what I would expect from what we've got there. And that's the basics of paths. Those are how to create them, assign them, and make them look good when your NPC is actually running the path itself. If you liked the video and the content, please leave a like. It means a lot to me and helps the video do well. If you want to see more GameMaker or more paths tutorials, hit the subscribe button because I'll be making more of these, covering them even more in depth in the future. And as I always say, keep making, keep learning, and I'll talk to you later. A huge thank you to all of the awesome people who support me over on Patreon. Their names are on the screen now, and every dollar pledged helps me create more awesome content. You can support me for as little as $1 a month and get access to exclusive perks like my Discord server, your name in the credits, early access to my YouTube videos and courses, and more. Check it out at patreon.com/letslearnthistogether.com or find the link in the description below and become a patron today.